All right, so now that we have gone over the basics of determining what different things like equations tables and graphs are quadratics, now we're going to look at some parts of a parabola, okay? So we're going to start with A, B, and C here. So A, I'm not sure if you can see it here, but there's a dotted line that's going straight down the middle of my graph, okay? Now that line is called the axis of symmetry. Okay, that is the axis of symmetry. Now the axis of symmetry, again, it's the invisible line that divides our parabola in half, okay? B, if y'all can see, it's pointing to these two dots, okay? So these two dots right here, there's a lot of names for these two dots, okay? There's zeros, roots, solutions, and x-intercepts, okay? All four of those names are interchangeable, and all four of those mean the same thing, okay? And we'll get into their definitions down here. But they're all the same thing, all four of these words, okay? And then lastly, part C, right? The very bottom of this graph is pointing to this little dot right here. This is the vertex, okay? So the vertex is the peak of our graph, right? It's the highest point or the lowest of low points, okay? And again, we will get into definitions right now. So we talked about a little bit of this in the other notes, but this is called, the type of graph is a parabola, okay? That is the shape, right? It's a curved, either a U, like this case, or upside down U, okay? That is what type of graph all quadratic functions are, okay? Now, this next part, zero, root, solution, and also x-intercept, okay? The definition of those are where the parabola, so our graph, where the parabola crosses or touches, okay, because it might not always cross it, but it might not always touch it either. So where it crosses or touches the x-axis, right? And if we look here, this is the x-axis, so my zeros are crossing it right here, right? That's where my parabola crosses, okay? The vertex, let me get my pen. So the vertex is the minimum or maximum point of a quadratic function. So like what I said earlier, right? It's the highest of high points on the graph or the lowest of low points, right? So in this case, it would be the lowest of low points, okay? And then maximum or minimum. So let me kind of show you what that one is. So again, like I just said, so if we had a graph like that's U-shaped, like the one above here, right? This point right here, that's the minimum. That's the vertex, okay? And I have a minimum when my graph opens up, okay? So what I mean by opens up is like the arrows point up, right? There's a big opening up, pretty obvious, okay? So that's when I have a minimum. When I have a maximum, so if I have like an upside down U type of graph, like this, okay? This highest point, that is a maximum, okay? And I have a maximum when my graph opens down, okay? So I have a minimum when my graph opens up, a maximum when my graph opens down, okay? And both of these points would be considered the vertex of their graph, okay? So that's just the very beginning of this. We will get into more details tomorrow, okay? So I'll see y'all tomorrow.